So since February of 2022, this camera, the Sony a7 IV, has been my main camera body for all my filmmaking projects and the photos I've taken, and I've absolutely loved it. If you are interested, I can also make a review on this camera with my thoughts on it. It's not the perfect camera, but I definitely think it's still worth it. Now, I've been trying to build out the a7 IV into different handheld rigs for any scenario I might need it for, and today I want to share those with you. This setup can also be applied to the a7SIII since basically the bodies are the exact same thing, so all the parts mentioned here can also be put for that camera as well. But the setup can also work for other cameras as well. You just need to make sure for like the cage example, you get the right cage for your camera that you have. In case you're looking for a list of all the parts that I mentioned in this video, here it is on screen so you can pause and take a screenshot, and all the links are in the description as well. If you'd like to get any of them and support me and the channel, they are my Amazon affiliate links, so why not check them out. I'll also make it clear throughout the video which names and numbers go with which parts. As you see, everything on this list is SMALLRIG as it works for me and it's not that expensive. So setup 1, this is the basics. So usually this is how I keep my camera set up at the minimum. I will say the exact SMALLRIG half cage I'm using here is actually not for sale anymore. They do have a new one that has a screw to connect the a7 IV to make it a more secure fit, but since I have an anchor attached to the side here, I still probably wouldn't screw together the a7 IV to the cage, and I believe you don't have to either. Now, I usually keep the half cage on it at all times since the Peak Design clutch strap here is connected to it on the bottom, but you can take it off and just put the Peak Design plate that it comes with on instead. No matter what I'm using this camera for, the strap is always on. It's also pretty tough to take off from the top of the camera, so I tend to just leave it be. And living on top of the cage here is a SMALLRIG mini NATO rail. This helps keep all the different rigs easy to manage as the other parts use a NATO quick release mount. Next, I'm going to show you how I fully rig out the a7 IV and all the components that go into it, and then I'm going to show you all the little setups that I use when I don't need everything all together. Not every job needs the exact same setup, and I always try to keep it to a minimum so I can make sure I'm working efficiently. So you start with the SMALLRIG half cage and the Peak Design strap as with every rig in this video. You can decide if you want the full cage instead, but I think the half cage works good enough for my uses. Even if it gets a bit loose on the bottom here, I've never had issues with it coming off, and there's a little screwdriver that comes with every cage mentioned in this video so you can easily tighten it. I always have my Peak Design anchors attached and an extra one on the bottom of the cage in case I want to carry my camera with a neck strap. And as well as the NATO rail that's always on top here, I never need to take it off individually. Next, I will attach my wooden handle to the side here. This is the only part that isn't a quick release mount, so the HDMI isn't obstructed in any way when I put a monitor onto it. There's enough space for everything on the side here. After that, I take my wooden top handle and attach another mini NATO rail to the top of it. Big fan of quick release mounts if you couldn't tell already. And to make things easier, I'll first attach my two monitor holder mounts, the NATO quick release one on top and the one with the locating pins on the front of the handle. Then for the front mount, we'll attach the Lume Cube Panel Go. Again, this version isn't for sale anymore, I believe, but there is an RGB version that I think is better to get. It's more versatile and this light is super bright for its size. Or you can go for the Aperture MC. It's also a very small, powerful light. It's smaller than the Lume Cube, but either one is really good to go with. And then before attaching the top handle, we're going to put a mic on the camera cage. My favorite mic so far is the Sennheiser MKE 400 2nd generation. It's tiny and has great sound quality, totally recommend it. It's what I'm using right now. And now we can finally attach the top handle to the camera. Next is the monitor of your choice, but I use the Atomos Ninja 5. And this is the all-out a7 IV camera rig that I rarely use, I would say. It's because I normally don't need the light, but in case I do, that's where I would put it. Only on the rarest occasions I would put this all together with the light, but most of the times I'm just working with natural light or, different lighting sources that I'm setting up myself. Now for my other setups, I'll slim it down a bit by not having the light and put the monitor in its place. And if it's needed, this is where I would put the SMALLRIG mini matte box light. It helps cut out unnecessary light, and if it's raining or anything like that, it might help keep the front bit dry, but I haven't tested that yet. But if the matte box isn't necessary, then I'll just keep it off. As well as the mic, if I don't need good onboard sound, then I'll just take it off. Sometimes it's on, sometimes not, but the in-camera mic on the a7 IV is pretty good for just ambient sound if you don't need it to be of higher quality. And now this is how I usually have the rig set up if I still want or need the top handle attached. Now this is the way I would most commonly have my rigs when I'm just running and gunning and don't want to build it out completely. I don't usually need the top handle unless I'm shooting a low angle with movement, so with the base setup I just use the NATO monitor mount on top of the cage and attach my monitor there. I always love having a monitor when I can to see my image a lot better. It's a world of a difference compared to the little flip out screen that the camera comes with. And this is how it's usually set up. Sometimes I'll add the side wooden handle for extra stability and maybe the mic, but when I'm out on the streets of New York and want to keep it to a minimum and still use the monitor, it's usually like this. Now if I want to keep it more low key but have a little more stability, I'll just attach the side handle and just use the flip out screen to monitor my exposure. Now even though I prefer the monitor, I can still easily expose with the flip out screen. It's just much easier to do it with the monitor since it's a bigger screen and it's much brighter than, what it comes with. But that is all the different ways I rig out the Sony a7 IV, or any camera for now really. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. You guys like my Disneyland sweatshirt? It's so soft. Love it so much. Alright.